Alright guys, so today I have something more car audio related. We have a Pioneer radio here. This is an AVIC 7100 NEX. So this one has Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, all that good stuff, and then has an HDMI port. So let me give you a look. So here we go, your Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, HDMI, that add-on module that they give you, and then this has built-in GPS as well. This does not have a capacitive touchscreen. This is a resistive touchscreen, and it's a 6.9 480 by 800 display. I wanted to show it to you guys because this is the radio that I used to make that fabricated Acura TL radio, and I wanted to show you that it's a pretty good radio in itself, and then I want to take it apart for you guys so you can see kind of the parts that it takes. I know that these screens can get damaged. They do get scratched, or if not, you need to break the LCD. You know, never know what's in the car. That just slight accident and you break it. So I know there's repair services out there, but the parts are pretty cheap and you could do the repair yourself. So I'm going to show you kind of how to take this thing apart and some of the tools you'll need, some of the parts you'll need. But first I just want to show you a little bit about the radio. It's pretty cool. These NEX units, and particularly the AVIC units, are built on top of Android, and I'm gonna demonstrate that to you guys in a little bit. So here, let's turn this on. Okay. And here you are. Again, it has navigation. So you have your HDMI input, you have a USB input, SD card input, an aux input, an AV input. This also supports the Data Link Maestro unit you can use with this. Backup camera, and then obviously it's off. And then you have Pandora, and obviously Bluetooth audio and Bluetooth calling, and then you have your traditional CDs. So the way you get this guy to... So if you want to get to the CD, you can use this to tilt it, untilt it, and then to actually get the CD, it comes all the way out like so, and then you just hit this again to close it. And then if you just want to get to the SD card, you just, and it comes all the way down, and you can take the SD card right out. Some of you may be like, oh, what? How come you can move it freely? You can't. Normally you would have to hit this and tilt it like so, but because mine is not screwed in right now, it's able to move freely. But it's not screwed in because I was already taking it apart, and then, you know, I was like, oh, this would be a good video to film, so that's why it's not taken apart. But alright, let's close this. This is kind of the navigation view, what it looks like. Pretty good navigation on it. Alright, so now let's talk about the fact that this is built on top of Android, and let me show you the developer menu. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to go AV, you're going to turn it off, you're going to come to this screen. On this screen there are three invisible buttons. This is button 1, button 2, button 3. They're invisible, and they're sort of boxes on the screen. You'll see they're not exact, so you don't have to hit them exact. You're going to hit 1, hold it for 3 seconds. Hit 3, hold it for 3 seconds. Hit 1, hold it for 3 seconds. Hit 2, hold it for 3 seconds. Then hold 3 till the password prompt comes up. And then the password's going to be Then here you have the developer options, and there you go. This is the standard Android developer options. If I turn it on, it mimics, see? Mimics what Android would normally do. So yeah guys, this is just a cool feature I wanted to show you. No one's really been able to do anything with this in terms of load apps onto their Pioneer radio, but it's just a cool little I guess hidden menu for you. And I mean, obviously it's useful for diagnostics if you need to actually diagnose something, because there are tools here to help you do that. But other than that, it's just something pretty cool to know. Apparently, you can switch the USB host to device. I'm sorry, from device to host, but it doesn't seem to actually work. I tried that. Then some of this stuff is kind of out of my realm of knowledge, so I'm not really sure what you can do and can't do with this. But I mean, if you know more, feel free to comment. If you've seen someone do more, feel free to comment or send me a message. I'd like to learn more. Like ADB on USB, I'm sure you could load some apps over that. But yeah guys, that was it. That's the demo video I wanted to show you. Now I'm going to show you how to take this thing apart. So teach you how to replace the LCD, the touch screen. Maybe some of these buttons don't work, the LEDs are out. Just show you a little bit of kind of what's not on the web yet, is people taking these apart. For some reason you can't seem to find any videos of it, so I just wanted to give you guys a good overview. This isn't so much a review. If you're looking for a review, you can go online, there's plenty of those. They're all kind of the same. The only difference between the 7100 and the 8100 is the capacitive touchscreen, and then the 8200 and 7200, which came out the next year, is just a couple of bug fixes and stuff, but nothing, no major overhaul between the models. And then if you're wondering what I've been using to power this guy on, it's just a pyramid regulated power supply, which, you know, plugs into regular AC voltage that you would have in your house, and then puts out 13.8 volts of direct current at 2.5 amps. So it's more than enough for like little projects like this, if you ever wanted to test a radio at home or something like that. And then these connectors that I have to make the connection here, so I don't have to round wire, are from these assorted crimp terminals. So these guys are very good tool to have around in your shop, just so that whenever you need to terminate a wire for whatever occasion may be, you have something that you can use. You have ring terminals here, spade terminals. Here's kind of an overview of all the terminals available in this box. Again, great little tool set to have whenever you need a terminal. It's right here, and you can switch it up with whatever makes sense for that situation. So yeah guys, I'll put a link in the description so you guys can check it out. It's just a handy thing to have. Before we get started, if you're gonna do what I'm going to do, you're going to take this display off, or this assembly off. You're going to need to get the motor to push out the rails a little bit, and what I mean by that is you're gonna need to hit one of these to get, so you're gonna need to hit one of those buttons to get the rails to come out, because they're screwed in here, so you need to get to these screws. So in order to do that, you're gonna have to turn the unit here, let me show you, on its side. You're gonna have to make the unit open up, so you're gonna have to do that while it's still connected. You can actually manually pull these, but I wouldn't do it because you're putting stress on the motor that when it shouldn't have stress. But you can just kind of tug on it and move it out enough so you can get them out. But again, I wouldn't recommend it, especially if you can get a little workbench going with one of these guys to power it up momentarily. Just use that and don't risk the chance of ruining your radio just because you were being lazy. Alright, so then when it's in this, you're gonna turn it off. Once it's off, you'll see that. Let's disconnect the power first. So now you'll see what I'm talking about. Normally there's a screw right here, and normally there's another screw right here. But again, I took mine out already, but that's where you would start, those two screws. Then this has a rail system. So let me see if I can get that on camera for you. You can kind of see here the rail system I'm talking about, and that's what allows to let this guy slide up and down. It goes inside that rail. Once you get those screws out at the bottom of the rails, this is gonna fight you a little coming out, but you're just gonna, you know, I recommend just pulling up a side at a time, and then you'll free it. Once it's free, these rails have so you're just going to pull one side up and the other side down, and that will allow you to get the screen off. Now the screen's held in by this ribbon cable, and it's actually really short. The way you're going to take this ribbon cable off is you have the radio finally free now. You're going to turn it upside down, and here you can grab this guy with your fingernail. It's a little black tab that's here. Hold on. So yeah, so you see this little black tab. It's kind of hard to see. You can actually get that off with your fingernail, and then this guy will release. And now you have your screen assembly free. And this is normally the thing you would repair. You know, maybe the buttons aren't working anymore, the display isn't working correctly, or you scratch the touchscreen, or the touchscreen isn't responding anymore. So this is normally something you would repair. And next, that's what we'll take a look at. But I just want to show you guys this for a second. So this is a ribbon cable that's 60 pin ribbon cable that's connected for the display. If something goes wrong in here, maybe your navigation chip's not working, Bluetooth's not syncing correctly, something like that, that's a little tougher to repair, because you would have to take this out, which isn't hard to take out, but the way that it's set up in here, it's a little trickier. It's a little harder to deal with. You definitely have to know more about what you're doing to be able to get into that kind of repair. But for this LCD part, it's kind of easy to do and to disassemble, so we'll talk about that next. So this LCD casing has a screw here, a screw on the other side, and then a screw up here and a screw up here. If my screws are a different color, don't worry, it's because I've taken this thing apart plenty of times and I probably put the wrong screws back in. But let's get this one out. Again, if you're going to do this because you're repairing the screen, I highly recommend that you keep your screws organized where you got them from, so that you don't put the wrong screws in the wrong place. Alright, so now that we got those screws out, there's tabs here, 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 and here that are holding this metal piece to this plastic casing. So to get that out, if you have a small little screwdriver, it's actually, you can come in here, so there's gap right here, and just push up against it. So you saw I pushed up like so. You're going to hit the board a little, like the back of the LCD. So let me see, let me show you. It looks like you're hitting the back of the LCD, but if you keep this to a short tip, you won't actually reach the LCD. You'll just pop it off like so. And again, if that's not working for you, let's say that's not coming off, you could come in here as well and pry up, and that works. But I recommend going in here and prying up. Is a faster way. So then that's going to come up. You're going to lift this up and out, and then you'll have access to the board. So here, let's talk about kind of what's hooked up where and what you're planning to repair, what you're going to have to do. So this is the backlight connector. So if there's something wrong with your display, maybe it's not as bright as it used to be, or it's maybe very dim, this would be the connection that you have to look at. So maybe you'd want to check these traces to make sure that there's nothing that looks like it's burnt out. If nothing's showing on your LCD, it's most likely this 60 pin connector here that connects straight to the screen. And then you have your buttons. There are this connector and your touchscreen, which is this connector. So to get to the next step, there's a tab here that you would pull up on and then pull this back so that you get the screen and the metal board that's connected to together. And then down here, there's a tab that it goes into, and another type of data edge that goes in. Then you want to come get this connector out, because this is for the buttons. Then after you undo this tab and get the LCD apart from the casing up there, you disconnected that connector. You want to lift up, and you should be able to retrieve the casing away from the actual LCD screen and touch screen. So here's the let me zoom out. Here's the LCD and touch screen, and here are the connections for it. Again, backlight, display, touch screen. Let's say maybe your buttons weren't working, then this is where you would come to replace this casing. If you want to go further down to see maybe why the LEDs aren't working, because you can't find just this replacement part, you can come in here and get this off and actually look at the board itself. So if you pry at one of these sides like so, you can get it to come off, and then that'll come right out, and then here's the actual board. So that's the button housing, the buttons look like, and this is the actual board that's there. These are the buttons, and each button has their own LED, so let me get that focus for you. So yeah, you can see those tiny LEDs there, and then this is the connection for it. So yeah, that's the connection for it. So maybe there's something wrong with this ribbon cable, maybe something's burnt here, who knows. You would replace this board with another donor board, or you could just replace the entire housing if you needed to. So we're going to put this back. Just line up. This has little tabs that you'd line up for where it goes. So it's kind of hard to see, but you see that weird wing at the end, and then it has another wing. Come on. Has another wing at this end that you use to line it up. And then this has little tabs that you're going to use to put it back in place. Line up the tabs with the tabs that are there, and then you simply just push down. This locks in place very it's not a very tight lock that it locks in place with, but you just want to make sure that when you put it back in, your buttons are still clicky. So make sure that you can hear that click. So after you put those back, let's say you replace that board or so, then you fix your problem. If not, let's say you need to replace the touch screen. The touch screen was scratched or something happened to it for some reason. You want to look at this connector next. So this one isn't a tab connector, it's one that's pushed in. So you're going to pull on the bottoms of it like so. It's going to come out, and then you'll be able to pull it right off. So then that touch screen will separate from the display like so, and here you go. So if you need to replace just its touch screen, you can. It's just a general 4-pin resistive touchscreen, come on, that you could find online from another manufacturer if you needed to, or you can get it from a donor machine. I mean, anything with a resistive touchscreen with this 4-pin will work. Alright, so let's put that back. Now let's talk about, to replace your LCD, you have your backlight connector, which you're going to have to flick up, and your LCD connector, which you're going to have to flick up. Then this will come out, and the board will actually come away from the LCD, and now you have your LCD here. Now this is the part number that you can Google, and you'll find replacement LCDs. They're like $60 or $70. So if all you needed to do was replace this has gone bad. It's relatively cheap to do, and as you guys can see, it's not too hard to do. Again, the actual touchscreen is cheap too. It's not an expensive part. It's just these companies that sell these parts like to make a ton of markup on them. So if this is something you feel you can do, getting the parts shouldn't be too hard. So now to put it all back together, we're going to, let's say you replace the LCD, you're going to put this connector back, push it in, press down, and then you'll see that there's actually a line there that should be covered when you press it back down, and this connector has a more noticeable line. It's actually white, so then you'll know that that's how far you have to put it in for it to have a solid connection. So that's in all the way. There you go. You can see the white is gone. We'll plug the touchscreen back in. Touchscreen's back in. And now we just have to plug the connector for the buttons back in. But to do that, we'll take the board and put it back into place. So you're gonna load the bottom first and insert it into those tabs that you took it out of before. Just make sure you line up everything correctly. There we go, everything's lined up. So we're gonna take it, put it into those tabs. Once it's in those tabs, this will automatically kind of come back into place once you push it in, and then you can take your connector for your buttons and push it back into place. Close it. There you go. Now those tabs I was talking about, if you missed it before, are right here on the outer edges. So it's where the metal goes into the plastic and metal goes into the plastic there. So that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, now we're gonna put the casing back on and go from there. So replacing the LCD, the touchscreen, or the buttons, really not too hard of a process. You don't have to remove anything from anywhere. You just kind of have to unpin some connectors, and if you didn't feel you know, like you could do with your fingers, you can get a tool that's specifically for this, kind of like a tweezer that's made for this, or another dedicated tool, but it's more than enough to do it with your fingers. So to put this back, you're gonna load the top first. So here, let me show you that. To put this back, you're gonna load the top first over the tabs. There you go. Make sure it's on it good, and then the bottom will just kind of close and click like that, and then we have to put those screws back. So again, we have this screw, this screw, this screw, and that screw that we have to put back. Alright guys, so now put it back into position where it's supposed to go. So before you put it into the rail system, you're going to want to connect this connection back. So this one's a little tricky to do because there's not a lot of space here. To connect this back is going to be a little tricky. So what I recommend doing is actually flipping the head unit. So you're going to put this in like so. Let it do that. Then take the whole unit, flip it over. Do what we did before where you put it on a tilt like so. Guide it into the rails, and then line it up with these screws again. At the moment, I don't have these screws. I lost them while my girlfriend was cleaning, so I have to figure out if she threw them in the garbage or what she did with them. But all you gotta do is put that screw back, then plug the radio back in, turn it back on, let it come up, and just close it. Okay, then we're back. Our touchscreen works no problem. As you can see, let's go to a source. Our volume control works, our map works, our home button works, the mode works, and so on and so on. So yeah guys, I mean, if you were just replacing the LCD, the touch panel, these buttons aren't lining up for you anymore, or something simple like that, it's very easy to replace. I'll put some links in the description for where you could find some replacement LCDs, replacement touch panels, and for this button, this array of buttons, you're gonna have to get it from Pioneer, this housing. So I'll see if I can find a link for you guys for that. And then again, the little power supply I have here, I'll put a link for that in the description. And I'll put a link in the description for the assorted crimp terminals, which is kind of what allowed me to make this connection down here and have a simple connect and disconnect. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.